Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AJC Executive Director David Harris.
What does one say after these last few moments with the Uzan family? It almost seems as if anything that any one of us would say would be trivial in the face of what they have been enduring. And one can only begin to imagine what they have been enduring, even as it was so evidently etched on the faces of the parents, the sister, and the friend. But maybe it's a fitting way to make this transition as we end the plenary part of our 109th Global Forum. And as many of us will make our way to Capitol Hill later today to try and take everything we've heard and seen and experienced in these last, was it only 48 hours? And try as thoughtfully and intelligently and smartly as we can to convey it to members of Congress who have the authority and the power to translate our feelings and our emotions and our yearnings and our fears and our hopes into tangible policy, which is why this afternoon is so extraordinarily important for the organization as an advocacy institution. But let me, if I may, reflect for just a moment or two on what we've just experienced these last couple of days. And I don't know about you, but I will confess that there's a lot of pride in me, but there's a lot of anger in me too. There's always been a lot of anger in me. But I understood at an early age that anger was perhaps a necessary emotion, but it needed to be translated into constructive actions. In other words, anger was not a policy. But I'm angry. I'm angry that the Uzan family had to experience what it did. I'm angry that Jews were killed in Paris and 15 were miraculously saved by the courage of one man whom we honored yesterday. I'm angry that a 22-year-old beautiful young Druze woman from Israel and that gorgeous daughter of hers who somehow may be feeling the moment sat over there quietly knowing that this was not the time to cry or scream for her mommy, and that young girl will never know her father. I'm angry, and I hope you're angry too. I'm angry that in the year 2015, 67 years after the rebirth of the State of Israel, on the recommendation of a UN General Assembly resolution endorsed by the vast majority of nations, that only one nation in the world's very right to exist continues to be questioned. Aren't you angry? I am. Only one nation. And is it by chance that it's the only Jewish majority nation in the world? I'm angry that only one nation in the world is targeted for annihilation by another member state of the United Nations, which is not just speaking, but has been acting clandestinely and openly for years and years and years in an effort to actualize its goal of obliterating that one majority Jewish state. Are you angry? I am. And I'm angry that with all the egregious human rights violations going on in the world before our eyes, on our watch, millions and millions of people killed in the Congo, millions of people killed in Sudan, hundreds of thousands of people killed in Syria, millions of refugees and internally displaced persons in country after country. Only one nation in the world triggers the so-called moral wrath of a group of people prepared to organize flotillas and flightillas and BDS movements, and that one country happens to be the only Jewish majority in the nation in the world. Are you angry? Yes. I'm angry too. And I'm angry that a woman who at the age of 5.5 with her family was already targeted as a Žid, as a dirty Jew, proklati ivrit, damn Jews, and forced to leave the Soviet Union and find refuge in France, only a few years later to be on the road again, once again, as a dirty Jew. Now at the age of nearly 92, living in this country, has to watch webcasts of sessions at the AJC Global Forum with the title, "Do Jews Have a Future in Europe?" That's my mother. And that's many of your families too, I'm sure. How many of us thought in the 1970s and 80s and 90s we would have to sit and endure this kind of a discussion on whether Jews have a future in Europe or not? And I'm angry, and I hope you're angry too. And I'm angry that in the midst of a war between a democratic nation that withdrew from Gaza in 2005, just as the international community wanted, in order to give the people of Gaza their first chance in history, something that the Ottomans never gave them, fellow Muslims, by the way, something the British never gave them, something the Egyptians never gave them, but the Israelis did, their first chance to chart their own destiny, took the route of Hamas. And after 16,000 rockets and missiles, as Yuval Steinitz said from this podium last night, Israel sought to defend itself. And that triggered 5 Latin American nations, including Brazil and Chile and Peru, democratic nations, not to punish Gaza, not to punish Hamas, not to punish Hamas's sponsor Iran, to punish Israel. To punish Israel defending itself against rockets and missiles by a jihadist group whose charter openly calls for the destruction of Israel. And they withdrew their ambassadors from Israel? Shame. I hope you're angry. I certainly am. And what about that United Nations Human Rights Council resolution during the same war, which named Israel 18 separate times, and Hamas not once? Not once. And that resolution was adopted by a vote of 29 nations in favor of the resolution, 17 abstentions, and only 1 negative vote. God bless the United States. Had Canada and Australia been there, it would have been 3. But they weren't members at the time. How can it be? How can it be that otherwise liberal democracies like European countries could abstain between the fireman and the arsonist, between the terrorist and the Democrat? What's happened? Where's the moral clarity? Instead, we've been enveloped increasingly in this world by moral fog. And I worry as well that too many Jews sometimes seem affected by the fumes of moral fog. Some Jews, in fact, I believe, could become candidates if there were such an award for a Nobel Prize in self-deception. This is not about right-wing politics or left-wing politics or Democratic politics or Republican politics. Some people make the mistake of trying to fit every analysis into some convenient partisan or political or ideological pigeonhole. It's not about that at all. The jihadists who surrounded the synagogue in Paris and wanted to kill the worshipers didn't ask whether the synagogue was Reform, Conservative, Modern Orthodox, Satmar, Chabad, Reconstructionist, New Age. They didn't give a damn. And those who have attacked the Dolphinarium in Israel, or the Seders in Israel, or the Moment Cafes in Israel, or the Sbarro pizzerias in Israel, didn't first ask, are the people inside voting for Meretz or Labor or Jewish Home or Likud? They were going after Jews. They were going after Israel. Why can't we all wake up and understand and stop being engulfed in this balkanization of Jewish life, which tries to create subgroup identity by denomination or by political view without grasping the realities that Iran wants to destroy us, period. The anti-Semites didn't first ask whether Dan Uzan's synagogue was this or that. It was enough that there was a Star of David there. And in Paris and in Toulouse and in Burgas, Bulgaria, it was all the same. And this brings me from anger to pride. It won't surprise you perhaps, but allow me to say it anyway. I'm enormously proud of AJC. It is veritably my oasis of reason, of civility, my peek into what both Jewish life could be if only others modeled themselves on what we've achieved here in this big tent, and maybe even what the prophetic vision for all could look like, by virtue of the fact that we treat each other with civility, we welcome the stranger, we have in our midst, even as we speak, Jews and non-Jews. I'm especially pleased that we've had human rights activists and peace activists join us for these last several days, from Yemen, from Egypt, from Tunisia, from England, from the United States, people of Muslim faith who feel at home here, and we want them to feel at home here. We have other non-Jews here as well, who share in what we believe at the end of the day is our struggle not only for the Jewish people, but for the defense of values that protect all like-minded peoples, be they Jewish, Christian, Muslim, of other faiths, or of no faiths. I've seen the future, and the future is AJC. I knew when the White House contacted Jason and me after the Shanda that greeted Jack Lew, the Secretary of the Treasury, on Sunday, I knew that there would be no problem here with Tony Blinken, or had it been John Kerry, John Kerry. And they knew it too. They were just checking. But they knew it, and we knew it, and you proved it. I knew that in the debate between Caroline Glick and Ari Shavit, that there would be people who supported Caroline and others who supported Ari, and many in the confused center. But I knew that no matter where your views were, the culture of civility and respect would prevail, and it did. We have created something absolutely unique in the Jewish world. We've created something. We've created a safe space, a respectful space. We're Jews from 70 countries here these last several days. We're people of all perspectives and faiths, and we're still talking to each other and sitting under one roof. I think that's pretty good. That's the methodology, but it's really the mission that counts no less. And look what we've accomplished these last 48 hours and in all the months leading up to it. I think I can safely say we try to be modest, but this is a moment for immodesty. The Jewish world has never seen such a political, diplomatic tour de force as we've just seen in the last 48 hours. 36 separate dinners with diplomats. The Chancellor of Germany, the Prime Minister of Japan, the Prime Minister of Israel, the Prime Minister of Ukraine coming from an embattled nation to speak to you from here. A member of the Inter-Israeli National Security Cabinet, the principal negotiator on Iran, coming to speak to you here. The Foreign Minister of Bulgaria coming to speak to you here, and on and on and on. Organizations would give their eye teeth for any one of them, if they were lucky. We had them all, and that was just this year. Oi gewollt. What do we do for next year? In fact, on a lighter note, when I was standing with Tony Blinken behind the curtain, and we were chatting, we've known each other for many years, and Stan, you were about to introduce him. And I turned to Tony and I was about to say, Tony, break a leg. I managed to get out. Good luck. We're also very lucky here for another reason. The quality of our leadership, our lay leadership, our staff leadership, the partnership. The partnership, which again is this defining quality of AJC. And Stan Bergman, to you as our president and my partner, I want to applaud your leadership and your example. Stan. And all the members of the executive committee with whom I have the privilege, and if they're here, may I ask them to stand as well. All the members of the EC. And I have to say a very special word about the staff. I don't even know how to express it adequately. I can only tell you that this has been a labor, I'd love to say, of love and leave it at that. I'm sure there were moments where some wished it was a biannual meeting or even a triennial meeting. But it's been an extraordinary display of staff creativity, commitment, teamwork. I mean, it's the damnedest thing. Every time I write a note to one of the staff thanking them for something, they write back and say, but it wasn't me, it was the team. Well, yes, it was the team, but the team is made up of individuals. So may I ask all the members of the staff who are here to please stand up and to be recognized. And even at the risk of singling out some people, and they're going to shoot me afterwards, which is one reason why AJC supports gun control. Begins with a very personal. I would, if they're here, and I'd like to ask Elisa Sagor, one of our heroes, to come up. I would like to ask Leslie Cleon to come up. I'd like to ask Danielle Traub to come up. I'd like to ask John Schweitzer to come up. And you, Joey Resnick, come on up. Come on up. Come on. Nope. It's the team. They won't do it. Just a couple of other things before we wrap up. There's a wonderful French expression, qui s'excuse s'accuse, which means, in effect, he who apologizes accuses himself. I omitted last night to mention that the ambassador of Argentina was here as well as the deputy ambassador and a whole entourage from the embassy. They should have been mentioned and recognized, and I want to be sure that everyone here knows, and especially our South Americans, that Argentina joined us last night together with the other 30 ambassadors. I also want to be sure that you've seen and hopefully will take home this rather historic document which is on your seats. Maybe it now has the imprint of a part of your body. It's still historic. This is a personal letter to AJC from the Prime Minister of France. It fits very much with the discussion that we had this morning. It speaks very much to the relationship that AJC Paris has with the Prime Minister. And I would particularly call to your attention the last paragraph on the back of the letter, and that's the only one I'll read to you. I know that I can count on AJC because we share the same values and the same will to combat those who spread hate and intolerance. Your moral clarity, your professionalism, and your determination distinguish you from others and make you an indispensable actor and interlocutor. I also want to salute and recognize the work and outstanding dynamism of AJC Paris Director Simone Rodin-Benzaquin and that of her team. It's an encouragement to continue and to never give up. Manuel Valls. When you have an organization where the Prime Minister speaks about his relationship with your Paris director, and when the German Chancellor on screen speaks about her relationship with our Berlin director, you know there's something special about the organization, and this is my last point. Thanks to the generosity and vision of John Shapiro and Roy Zuckerberg, they've made an extraordinary matching grant opportunity for us. You heard it, of $800,000. They'll match your gift 2 for 1 if you make a new gift or increase your gift. They'll do it till June 30th. I think you've heard the case statement the last 48 hours. I think you've understood from the people here on stage, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Prime Minister Abe, Chancellor Merkel, you want character references, you got character references. It's not David Harris telling you we're doing important work. It's the world's leaders telling you we're doing important work. Keep doing it. You in this room have the power to allow us to do even more work. This is the moment. This is the defining moment. The defining moment is not about the world out there, it's about each of us. How do we define ourselves in this moment? How do we relate to this moment? We can do more, each of us. Are we willing to do more? I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, if you haven't already done so, meet the moment with us. Take up the challenge offered by John and Roy. Let's reach the $800,000. Let's surpass it. So as we leave, and as many of you go to the Hill, I'm asking you to think about that offer. I'm also asking you to sign up now for next year. Next year will be our 110th. Somehow, I don't know how, I don't have a clue, we'll do even better next year than this year. Let's all be together next year to meet the moment and to say, when history is written, we could say, Hine ni, here I am, Hine nu, here we are, Kulanu, together. Thank you all for being here. God bless you.